What is up, everyone? We are live. So, what I want to go over is the power of six and my entrepreneurial journey and how it's really helped me on my entrepreneurial journey. And what's really interesting, the power of six came about because of my entrepreneurial journey. When I went from fighting as a professional athlete into entrepreneurship, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And it's almost like you go through the cycles because you never know what you're getting yourself into. Even when I became a fighter, I had never been punched a day in my life. So getting punched was an interesting experience. I didn't know what I was getting into then. And I didn't know what I was getting into now, going into this new entrepreneurial journey. And what's really interesting, it's always harder, or at least this has happened in my experience, it's always harder than we think it's going to be. We get into it, we hear a couple of things, we hear the steps that we need to take, and then we realized, oh crap, wait, no, this is actually harder than I thought it was going to be. And now I have to really make adjustments and shifts and changes. And so what started the power of six actually comes from a series of mistakes. I started off in Amazon FBA. And for those who don't know what that is, it just means fulfillment by Amazon. And I'm basically a third party seller. So I buy products at wholesale and I sell it at retail price. I was doing that and I was actually doing pretty good at it. I got a coach to help me through it and figured out what I needed to do and the ins and outs. And that was more difficult than I thought it was going to be because I couldn't figure out how to automate it. And I didn't really like doing it either. Now, talking about liking something, I'll do something for 3 to 6 months. I always say do it for 3 to 6 months just to see, do you not like it, or is this your brain just telling you you don't like it because it's different, it's new, it's a challenge. And so that's what I did. I stuck with it, and I stuck with it long enough to where I was decent at it, but it didn't drive me. It really didn't drive me. It wasn't fulfilling to me. I didn't wake up saying like, I get to go look at who's buying my products. Just wasn't for me. So I walked away from that. I was really trying to figure out what to do, how to get cash flow coming into my business. And I went back and forth, and I actually got into speaking too, right? So I got into speaking, motivational speaking, and I ended up hiring a coach for that as well. And so when I got coaching in that, the first speech I had to give was in front of friends and family members. And I was nervous, very nervous. And I told my coach, I'm like, am I supposed to feel this uncomfortable getting ready to talk in front of my friends and family members? He goes, oh yeah, it's going to be your hardest one yet. And so I'm like, all right. I had a feeling it would be, but I figured I'd ask. And I'm speaking in front of my friends, in front of my family members, and it was all over the place. I couldn't it was inspirational and it felt good, but there was no action steps people could take, or there was no really structure behind what could happen. Kind of like this video, the power of six is going to make it easier as I go through it, but it was just everywhere. It was like a roller coaster, and they couldn't really pinpoint one specific thing they could take away from the speech. And I had one of my clients tell me that. She goes like, yeah, I felt good, but I didn't know what to do with all those good feelings. And I could tell you've done a lot on your journey and you have a lot of experience and there's a lot of wisdom there, but I don't know what to do with that wisdom. And so I took that to heart, and I sat down and I really just started saying, okay, what steps, what process do I take the people that I work with through? Because I knew it was a special process that I was doing, but I was doing it so subconsciously that I couldn't articulate it properly. I just did. I was a doer. I wasn't a person who could say, follow this step, this step, this step, this step. I would listen in closely as I could, and I would customize a plan. And so, with that ability to customize, I needed to figure out, okay, how do I go through my customization process? So, in truth, entrepreneurship just made me a better, a, it helped me become much more articulate on what it was that I did specifically to get people to the results that they needed. Because I knew I helped people with discipline. I knew I helped people get the energy that they needed. I knew I empowered people, but I didn't have the exact structure behind it. And so that's what I set out to create. I'm like, okay, what steps do I do to move them through the process? And I literally just thought back to every client that I worked with and what I specifically did to get them moving forward. And even the power of six itself has changed to an extent. And it's not the process hasn't changed, just the way I articulate it has changed. For instance, the first step was always to think big. I got people thinking big because when you think big, you have a chance. And I got people feeling those big thoughts too. And I did really good at thinking big and feeling big. And then I narrowed it down even more. I made it even better. Ended up calling it the three C's, which is you get them clear, really clear on what it is that they want to do. And then you give them the confidence that they need. So that's that big thinking, big feeling. Get them good and confident. And confident just means confidence isn't confidence. People get that confused all the time. Confident just means I believe I can. That's all you need. If you just believe it's possible, you have a chance. And that's the way I've lived my life from start to finish so far. That's what I've been doing on my journey is like, I believe that I can do this thing that I want to do. And I know that I can make it happen. I know I can put it together. And I know even if I stumble, trip, and fall, I can get back up and I can get better at what I'm doing. That confidence to drive and continue to do the things that I need to do has served me tremendously and will continue to serve me tremendously. And that's why I instill that into other people that I work with. Because whether you're overweight, whether you're having bad relationships, whether you're an entrepreneur trying to figure it out and put it together and you don't know what to do, if you're just confident enough and believe in yourself enough, you have a chance. And then the third C is commitment. The second people are committed to something. And that's when I talk about like telling people about what you're doing because it makes it very, very real. Signing a contract, saying it out loud, doing what you need to do to commit to this thing you're going after. And as I've gone through my entrepreneurial journey, I've heard some people say like, hey, when are you going to be a millionaire? Whenever it happens. But whenever it happens, there's nothing concrete about that. And if it's not concrete, yeah, you can be a millionaire at 90, 95. What does that mean? So when you can get really concrete and specific on what commitments you're having, then you can get to where you need to go. I remember as a fighter, we had commitments. We signed contracts because it was, you are going to be at this place at this time doing this thing, and you will get paid this to do this. So I started actually tying in entrepreneurship and fighting, and I started binding them together because I realized they were way more of the same than they were different. And that's what I loved about the power of six as I was creating it. I'm like, wow, this is something that can be used in anything. It's the principles that you use, and you deep dive into the principles, and they can be applied to any goal to get you where you need to go. And I actually had to, as I was writing the power of six, I go back to it because sometimes I stray away. They call it the shiny object syndrome. And you can do that really, really quickly where you're like, oh, well, what about this? What about this? Like, okay, go back to the power of six. And so after I did those three C's, it was All right, after I get them feeling really good, because they're feeling amazing at this point, they see their goal, they see that vision, and they're committed to doing it. And they did the actual commitment steps. They signed the paper they needed to sign. They did the things they need to do. They said the things that they needed to say. And so the second one is, all right, now we got to have a plan. We have to have a plan of action. Now, plans are very, very loose plans. The reason I say that, as I am customizing with somebody, things change. Life is always adjusting. What is happening in their life? So I keep the plan super, super simple. Super simple. So, for instance, when I went through my weight loss journey, it was okay, how many calories should I be eating? How many calories should I be burning? How many calories do I burn when I do a certain exercise? And just keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Entrepreneurship is the same thing. I've just been keeping it super, super simple and saying ACDC. And I got ACDC from a book called Clockwork, because you got to always be educating yourself too. If you're not educating yourself and you're not learning the lessons and where you need to put the reps in, then you're screwed. And so ACDC means it's attract, convert, or no, attract, connect, deliver, and convert. And so attract means I need an audience. I need an audience, and I need an audience that works with me. What's up, Gemma? Like, Gemma's a perfect example. I got a lot of love for Gemma. She's a sweetheart, and what I do adds value to her life, right? So I want to attract the audience who will respect what I have to offer to them. I don't want to attract every audience, because that would be out of integrity for me and it would be out of integrity for them. It doesn't mesh very well. And so as I'm learning, and I'm learning this, I'm learning how to attract my audience. I'm learning, okay, what are their pain points? What do they need? How can I help them? How can I help them move forward? Where are they stuck at? Where are they at now, and where do they want to be? And then it's connect. Have a conversation with the person. Talk to a person. Know them as deeply as you can. What I love about what I do as a person, integrity is huge to me. It's absolutely huge. And so when I do talk to someone, I want to know them fully, to know if I can serve them properly. As I've been an entrepreneur, there's a lot of truth that I've paid people who didn't serve me properly. I did. I'm not blaming them for it. I didn't ask enough questions, but I don't want that to be the reason why someone paid me. And that's why I'm really extreme on when I go into question asking, because I want to know specifically what it is they want, specifically where they want to go, specifically who they want to be at the end of the journey. Because when I know that, I can help them better on, yep, we're a good fit and this is why, or we might not be a good fit, but I know someone who is a good fit. I didn't realize I'm a great networker too. The person who's constantly probing and asking questions, it makes it for amazing networking. And so I get to connect people together too. So I'm learning skills that I had and I didn't even know that I had as I go through this journey. And then deliver. You have to have the deliverables. That's one part where I was always very strong. I was very good at delivering people to where they needed to go. Sometimes when in the beginning of my pursuit, and this was before entrepreneurship, this was as a personal trainer specifically, I could actually deliver results too quickly for people. I didn't even know that was possible when I first started my journey. I was very good at, okay, you want to get here? I can get you here. Because I can get a person wherever they need to go. I am a spearhead. That's what I do. I'm very good at getting people results because I listen very, very closely. And I know where to take them, what they need to hear to move them forward. Getting someone somewhere too quickly, just to explain, if you take someone who has all the worst habits, right? And then you give them all the best habits, but they haven't really they haven't gotten to the deep seated issues to why they had the bad habits in the first place, that's getting someone to success too quickly. Because if they have all the good habits, they just have all the good habits with still internal not functioning processes. There's a mindset piece here. And that's what I'm talking about. You can get a person somewhere, even with good habits, too quickly, too rapidly, and still have internal mechanisms that aren't functioning properly. Live and learn. So I lived and learned on my journey, and I go, oh, okay, there's an adjustment. And then there's the collect. You collect your money. Now, collecting, you can collect in any various part of the journey. For instance, when I created the Power of Six was a video based online training that I made, and I sold that to 15 as a beta. And I gotta say, big congratulations and thank you to those 15 women that took a shot on me to pay me on a new product. That's what a beta is. A beta is we're not sure how it's exactly going to work. We're going to give it a try and see how it rolls out. Now, the cool thing, again, it goes into my integrity. I do my very best to make my very best. So I put a lot of energy into the first series of the power, like a lot of energy into the series of the Power of Six. So I'm excited to see where this goes and how far it goes because it's just going to be a lot of fun. Um, and I've made so many amazing connections along the way. It's been an absolute blast. But that goes into the planning, the blueprinting, and the systems. Systems are always changing, they're always adjusting, right? And there's a book I read, it's called Ready, Fire, Aim. And it talks about you're ready, you have something, and that's my plan, and then you got to fire. And the firing is that passionate action. And that's the third one. And I have my loose plan, right? On a couple things that I need to do, and then I start taking action. And I'm talking massive, insane, passionate action. I call it the dirty reps because sometimes you got to get the dirty reps in for the good reps to come. And actually, most of the time, people don't like to hear that. The cool thing is though, if I do keep them on the first three C's, right? Keep them with the plan. The passionate action is actually an easier part in the beginning. And this is why I'm saying this. There's a spot where there's a place where you're going to hit a wall. Like it happens to everybody. You're going to hit it. I've never seen anyone just, well, I feel confident, I'm committed, I have clarity, I have a blueprint and a plan, and I'm just going to take action and just make this thing fly. There's a spot where you hit and you get stuck. And that's where the fourth principle comes in. And the fourth principle is unshakable faith. And unshakable faith doesn't mean to do the same thing over and over again, but it means to adjust accordingly and keep believing in something bigger at the end. Like there's something there. You might not know exactly what it is. You might not know exactly how it's going to show up, but you believe and you have faith. You have faith and you just keep moving forward. You keep driving no matter what. You ask questions. You do the things that you need to do. And so that leads me to, sometimes they call it a plateau even, whether it's feeling stuck or having a sort of a plateau where I'm like, I thought I was doing it. I was putting it together and I'm stuck now. I'm plateauing. It happens. It's part of the process. And so as you go through that unshakable faith, as you go through that piece, the fifth is take responsibility. And I'm talking extreme responsibility. And this one was actually one of my first lessons on my journey. My dad was really big on taking responsibility. Why my steps are the way that they are is because I can't tell a person to take responsibility right out the gate. If they don't know who the hell I am, I don't know their story, I don't know anything about them. So me telling them you need to take responsibility, it's very jarring to people. They don't under there. It's almost like F you. You don't know my life. And so that's why I go through the process that I go through, because it's a very loving, caring process. And there's that piece where I kind of hit you in the gut, where it's like, okay, what do you do now? How are you going to do this? Because when you give them their responsibility and they're already empowered, they're feeling good about their life, and they're saying, okay, what can I control? What can't I control? And what do I know the difference between the two? And so even as a coach, I'm going to help and guide through that process, because sometimes you have way more in control than you think. And sometimes people are trying to control these things they cannot control. Like, you have no control over that thing, but you do have control over this thing. And so that's where that wisdom and guidance is really important. And I always use that. I always have coaches on my journey, because I don't know what I don't know. Like, I can't say, well, I can control this, this, and this. Sometimes I might not even know what I have control over or what I don't have control over. And so putting the ego aside, as ironic as that sounds, with extreme responsibility, it is being able to put your ego aside and say, responsibility is, I know what I know, but I also know there's a big portion of I don't know what I don't know. I just don't know what I don't know. And that has helped me so much on my journey, so much. I'm one of the first people to tell you there's a heck of a lot more that I don't know than I do. And I would say that's for everybody. And people learn that at different times. Unfortunately, people go to their deathbed sometimes never learning that. And I don't want that to happen to the people that I connect with. So I just remind people, like, hey, there's always more to learn. There's always more growing that can happen. And then the sixth step is greatness within. And greatness within is that place where you're just on, where you're going after mastery, when you're truly enjoying the journey, having fun along the way. And I've seen people, and they talk about grinding and how hard it needs to be. And it's hard, going to the top is not easy, but you get to choose how you want to do it and if you're going to have fun with the process. Like on my USC journey, I had a ton of fun. I had a lot of fun during that journey. And during this entrepreneur journey, I'm having a lot of fun doing this. And I'm scraping my knees and bumping along and bobbling and falling over and getting back up. And I'm learning so much. I'm growing so much through it. It's an absolute blessing. And I met people like Steve and Rick through the journey. And I've made a lot of great connections and friendships along the way. And I'm understanding, like, the greatness within. The hardest part for me when I was coaching, it was hard. It hurt to know that my bank account wasn't showing the transformation I was giving people, because I know I'm great at what I do. I'm great at what I do. And I say that without ego. I just know I've put in those reps. I've put in those reps. I listen closely to people. I read consistently on coaching, on understanding people, on depression, on anxiety, on fears, on loves, on discipline, on all of this stuff. And so I know it inside and out, and I know how to implement it too. I implement this stuff on myself, and I stay consistent with it. But there was a guy that Rick actually introduced me to. His name is Dusty. He made a great observation that I held on to. He said there's transformation and there's transaction. Transformation, I got that all day long. But the transaction part, am I paying you? Am I paying you consistently? And why am I paying you for this? That's when it becomes something different and new. And that's the next piece that I'm really putting together on my journey as I go through it. Because it comes down to, if I said, all right, you got to have the right mindset, you got to be disciplined. Okay, we all know we need that. But why do we need that? And then when I can talk about results, so for instance, one group that I'm working with specifically is real estate agents, and I said to a real estate agent, look, every time you sell a house, you get $2,000. I'm just going to estimate some numbers right now. So every time you sell a house, you get $2,000, right? And you're selling 5 houses a year. And so you're getting $10,000 a year. What if I could double that for you? So what if instead of selling 5 houses, you sold 10 houses? And instead of 10,000, you're getting 20,000. What if I could triple that for you? You see, people need the discipline, but sometimes they don't know what the discipline is that they need. When a person can tell you how to do something and why you're doing it, it makes it easier to have discipline. See, discipline to me isn't hard. It's actually one of the easiest things I do because it's a lesson that I learned. And I can teach it to anybody. And I can teach it to anybody because I've taught it to so many. So many overweight people along their journey. I've taught it with people dealing with drug addiction. I've taught it to people dealing with some of the most horrific situations. And it's from that power of six. It all starts with clarity is listening closely, understanding what their hopes, their dreams, their desires are, and why they're there. Confidence is understanding, okay, who broke you down? And why are you holding on to that? Not in a mean way, but who's making you feel like shit, like you're not capable? Sometimes it's themselves. Sometimes they've gotten so used to doing it, they just shit on themselves without even realizing they're doing it. And then commitment. I think most people are committed. I think everybody's doing the best that they can with the knowledge that they have. See, people need upgrades. Every time someone is trying to do something new or different, it's scary. And that's scary for anybody. But the commitment is to remind themselves that they're more than capable and that I'm with them and that I'll sit with them. And I believe in them and I know they can do it, even when the entire world tells them that they can't. And so after that, we get a game plan. We start to game plan. And real quick, before I even go into that, so confidence is funny because confidence, people will associate confidence as being this thing that one group has and another doesn't. Our brains are very good at generalizing. So you'll take someone, for instance, who's a leader, right? Who's a leader of an organization. And you'd say, oh, that person must be confident. And the person who's not a leader of anybody, be like, well, that person is not confident. Not necessarily. So confidence can come and go. And confidence can be a thing where if you give someone a lot of things and then you take those things away and they're still okay, that is confidence to me. Confidence means being able to risk it all. And that's why I felt so good being able to walk away from fighting and say, this is the new thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to go after this. Because unfortunately, in fighting, either you leave or the game will make sure you leave. And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to go out on my own terms. And so that's what I did. I walked away from the game and I walked into a different game. Our minds are haywire and sometimes they'll go back into the old game. That's all being an overweight person is when if you're overweight and you're trying to lose it and you lose it and you're feeling good for a little bit and then you go back, we get used to playing certain games. We get used to it and that's okay because we're human. But when you're ready to play the game you want to play, confidence is being able to say, I can play whatever effing game I want to play. What game do I feel like playing today? And the world's going to tell you, nope, this is your game. No, you got to do this. And society's going to tell you what they're going to tell you. And your mind's going to tell you the same thing. Your mind's going to tell you, no, you've been this. You got to do this thing. This is what you've always been. You're a creator. Let's just be straight and real. That's what you are. And so go create. Go create the reality that you want to create. And so as I backtrack, do that sometimes, going back into a plan and saying, what plan are we going to create right now? What steps are we going to take along this journey? And how are we going to act with true, intense passion? Usually I go with the first three before we even start playing in the 4, 5, and 6. We don't play into those ones until later on. Because the first three are really all anybody needs to get their journey moving along, doing what they need to do, stepping into what they need to step into. And it's beautiful to see. And sometimes, like the unshakable faith, that's a place where you're not playing average anymore. And some people are okay with average, and that's perfectly fine. I'm cool with people who want to play average. I really am. But unshakable faith is a place past average. It is. Steve will probably love this. I don't know if Steve said this to me or if it was another person, but we were talking about getting your black belt. And they go, so how long does it take the average person to get a black belt? And the instructor said, average people don't get black belts. And that's just the truth of it. Like, you don't get to get things and live the average lifestyle. And that's okay. Again, it goes back to responsibility. If a person's okay being the average of something, because average isn't bad, it's just a thing, then that's perfectly fine. I'll give you an example. I'm not even an average cook. I'm a crappy cook. And I'm okay with being a crappy cook. But I don't want to be an average entrepreneur because that's what I'm going after right now. That's where my targets are focused. And so it is about learning how to get the transformation and the transaction and putting them hand in hand. And I know people like Rick and people like Steve and people like Dusty and other people along the way are going to help me do that. And when I figure out how to create transformation and transaction and put it together, I'm going to not only impact my life, I'm going to impact the lives of many others. I know Gemma was on here. I think Gemma might still be on. She's autistic. And I want to impact Gemma's life, and I want to impact other people who deal with autism's lives too. And I want to impact anyone who comes into my circle, into my inner circle. Those who provide me energy, I want to provide them energy too. And so when I talk about influencing 1 billion lives, it's a big, big, steep goal. And anyone who knows me closely would say this guy would not have it any other way. And they actually go, I think he can do this. Because I've shown up to do some of the most bizarre, craziest things. Because I'm going to act and I'm going to learn the lessons I need to learn and I'm going to adjust. I'm going to surround myself with the people I need to surround myself with. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to stay kind along the way. I say, keep getting strong. Keep building your strength. Don't ever stop. But stay kind because it's just right to do. It's just the best thing to do. Everybody's trying. Everyone's doing the best that they can. So get strong, learn lessons, teach others, stay kind. Thank you. And yeah, that's how the whole Power of Six started. Hopefully that was clarified enough. If not, please let me know because I'm always down to get better at my message. Like I said, we got to keep putting in those dirty reps until the clean reps come. Thanks, everyone.
There. Hey, a lot of great gems in that one, Cliff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback here. Let me close some other screens.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me close some other screens.
Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens. Let me close some other screens.
We'll see if that works. No, I'm getting feedback. But anyway, I think one thing that, in the different industries that I've worked in, real estate, martial arts, fitness, and all that, I've trained or learned under a lot of really successful mentors in each of those industries. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's specific to the industry. Sometimes the tactics and strategies they use. But what's interesting is the principles for success are all the same. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. And so that's why when we talked before about looking at entrepreneurs, working with entrepreneurs and real estate agents, the inclination would be, well, I don't have any experience in those industries, so I can't talk the same language. But the reality is you're talking at a higher level. You're getting deep into the characteristics and the habits that they need to have in order to even implement the industry specific strategies and tactics. And honestly, I think it's even better to have somebody from another background rather than someone just in that industry all the time, because now you have a whole nother perspective that as a student you can draw off of and go, oh, you know what? I can apply this fighter mindset in this industry the way that other people aren't able to do that, because they're learning from that industry specific mentor and they all have the same kind of a mindset. So I just think it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to work with you and get a different perspective.
Yeah, and I like that you say that, Steve, because I read a book and I can't remember the title of the book, but it talked about how doctors were with doctors, plumbers were with plumbers, dentists were with dentists, professional trainers were with professional trainers. And they said what one group did was a doctor ended up going with a plumber and a professional trainer and a dentist and all of these things. And they got these new enriching perspectives that they took back into their profession, and their profession was better because of it.
Yeah.
And I look at things like that, I'm like, that's super cool. And I 100% agree. One reason I take in lessons that I take in is I do my best to stay as curious as possible. The most dangerous thing a person can say is, I already know that. Like, once you say that, your mind gets lazy. And when your mind gets lazy, you go out of creative mode.
Yeah. Yeah. Lazy, or if not closed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. Rick's quiet over there. What do you think, Rick?
I think it's the power of six. Clifford Starks, look out. For me, it comes back down to relationships. Like, I consider myself a real estate counselor, right? Nobody wants to talk about their problems or about so they just want solutions. And so as a real estate broker, as a developer, as an investor, as somebody who, been in the trench, both as a broker, as a lender, all of these different aspects, I found myself really as a counselor. Nobody wants to talk about their personal problems, but we're talking about the real estate deals along the way, and we're putting all of the pieces in line for their dreams, right? It's really simple. People, it's family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Life is relational. And when we learn that life is relational, that we're nurturing these relationships for long term, that it's not just a quick flash in the pan. Life is a journey. It's meant to spend with others along the way. Success is getting what you want. Period. Success is getting what you want. And your ability as an entrepreneur, oh my God, you put the first things first, right? The first thing is the heart. You come from that place of passionate action. And I know that's what I love about you. I wake up and I see you are leading the way. It's inspiration. You come from that. I don't think you need to tell everybody that anymore. I think the truth is I listened and I'm sitting in the background and I'm listening and like you give everything away. If they just paid attention, you'll get that. But the truth is you'll never get it. You'll never get it until you build the relationship. So it takes action. So take the action, reach out, build the relationship. You can get the Power of Six on PonoQuest, right? You can go in and do the study and and pay attention to his process. You can believe you know him. You can believe you can hear him in your head, what he's going to do, what his process is. But until you build the relationship and include him in your inner circle in your life, are you really playing all in? So I would invite anyone to, if they want to take it to the next step, it doesn't matter what part of the journey you're on. If you're just looking to relate and connect to the next level, that's the guy he's going to take. Yeah, I'm paying attention. So did you ask me what I had to say, Steve?
You had a couple things to say. I never think I'm putting you on the spot when I ask you if you can contribute something. So.
I want to say real quickly, Gemma, appreciate you for showing up. Glad to have you on. Beth, appreciate you. I'm just scrolling through the comments real quick. Handsome Kinshi, appreciate you coming through. I'm going to have to check your YouTube channel out, brother. It's been a while. Let's see. Yeah.
You had some on Facebook. You had Jacqueline on Facebook.
Pono Coach and a Jacqueline. Jacqueline, hey, thank you all for coming through. And yeah, the goal is we just keep sharing. And again, as well, so regardless on what you decide to do, on what actions you decide to take, one of the scariest things to do is to ask a question. It's very, very scary to do because sometimes we don't want the answers that we'll get. Like the answer is, we are powerful beyond belief. And it's terrifying when we know what we need to do. That's actually one of the scariest things a person can do, is ask the question knowing that they're going to get the right answer to take the action they need to take. And what I say is, if it's scary, it's all good. I got your back on this. Even if you have to just think about it and think about it for a while, but don't give up on your dream. Like, please, 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 please do not do that, because we shut ourselves up and we get too quiet. And it's important to use these two ears and listen closely, but it's also important to use this. We have this for a reason. So a closed mouth does not get fed. And if you do have anything specific to move you in the direction that you need to move into, please ask the question, because I'm networking like a mad person, and I'm finding so many powerful people to play with. And that's what it comes down to, is saying, wait a minute, you're really saying I can make this a reality? Yeah, you can. You absolutely can.
Awesome, Cliff.
All right, my people. It has been a pleasure, and I don't even know how to stop the live.
I'll hit the button here for you, Cliff.
Okay.